In a quiet valley wrapped in mist and morning birdsong, the village of Shantipur stood still in time. Surrounded by fields and forests, it was a place where life moved slowly, and people found beauty in simplicity. Among its people lived a boy named Karan, known not for his brilliance or bravery, but for something far less admirable: his laziness. Karan was a gentle soul. He never harmed anyone, never caused trouble, but he was always waiting for the right time to begin things. Whether it was chores, studies, or even his dreams, he believed he could always start tomorrow. That belief became his comfort and his curse. While other children woke with the sun to help their parents in the fields or sit under the banyan tree for school lessons, Karan lay beneath the sky, staring at clouds and making promises to himself that he never kept. His family would gently scold him. "You're wasting your days, Karan," his mother would say. "Life won't wait for you," his father added. "Even the seasons don't stand still," his grandfather warned. But Karan would just smile lazily and say, "There's still time." He believed that time was endless, that life would always give him another chance. And so hours slipped into days, and days into months, as Karan drifted through life without direction. Then, one spring morning, the rhythm of the village changed. A mysterious man named Sage Veer arrived, dressed in simple robes, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that seemed to hold lifetimes of wisdom. He set up a small mat beneath the ancient peepal tree near the village square. Word quickly spread that the man had traveled across lands, offering guidance and solving the troubles of those who felt lost. Villagers began to visit him, one by one, then in groups. They returned changed. Their hearts seemed lighter, their words deeper. Karan heard the stories too. At first, he dismissed them. "Just old stories dressed in new clothes," he muttered. But something about the quiet respect people gave Sage Veer intrigued him. So, out of curiosity more than hope, he decided to go. He found Sage Veer sitting quietly beneath the tree, surrounded by silence. No crowds, no chants, just the calm hum of nature and the man's steady breath. Karan hesitated, then stepped forward. "I don't know what I'm doing with my life," he said honestly. "Everyone says I'm wasting time, but I don't know how to change. Can you help me?" Sage Veer looked at him kindly and nodded. He reached into a cloth pouch and drew out a small hourglass. The glass was smooth and clear. Inside, fine grains of golden sand fell slowly from one chamber to another. "This," Veer said, handing it to Karan, "is your life." Karan tilted the hourglass, watching the sand tumble down in silence. "Every grain," the sage continued, "is a moment you will never get back. You think you have plenty, but what you're really doing is losing them, one by one, without meaning." For the first time, Karan felt a heaviness in his heart, not guilt, but understanding. He wasn't just wasting time, he was wasting his life. The words echoed in him long after he left the tree. That night, for the first time in years, he didn't sleep easily. He stared at the ceiling and held the hourglass close. He watched the sand fall and realized something simple, but life-changing. Time wasn't waiting, and if he didn't act now, he might never become the person he could be. Karen's mind had never been so restless. That night, after receiving the hourglass from Sage Veer, sleep avoided him like a whisper in the wind. He lay on his woven cot, the hourglass placed gently beside him, its faint reflection shimmering under the moonlight seeping through the window. Every few minutes, he would glance at it, watching the grains of sand slide quietly from top to bottom. Each falling grain was a silent reminder. Time is passing, whether you use it or not. The next morning, for the first time in years, Karan rose before sunrise. The village was still half asleep. Smoke from early kitchen fires curled into the sky. He sat on the edge of his bed, thinking about what Sage Veer had said. "Use your energy on things that grow you, not things that waste you." He wasn't even sure where to begin. He had never truly been disciplined, not in school, not at home. But as he watched the first light of day brush over the rooftops, something inside him stirred. A desire to become more than what he had always been. Karen didn't begin with anything grand. He didn't set out to change the world in a day. He started small. He swept the front porch before his father asked. He helped his mother with breakfast. He cleaned his room, something he hadn't done in weeks. He found an old notebook and wrote down a few goals, awkwardly scribbled but heartfelt. Wake up early, finish what I start, learn something every day. That day felt different, not because the village had changed, but because he had changed. For the first time, Karen felt the power of completing something. There was a quiet pride in doing the small things, in crossing off a task, in not wasting the hours. Days went by, and Karen stayed true to his decision. Some mornings were harder than others. There were times he wanted to sleep in, to give in to the old habits waiting to return. But every time he looked at the hourglass, he remembered the feeling of regret and chose movement over stillness. He began reading again. Books he once tossed aside with disinterest now sparked his curiosity. He listened closely when elders spoke, learning from their stories rather than ignoring them. He started helping at the village library, organizing shelves, and talking to children about the importance of time. Weeks passed, and slowly, his name began to mean something new. People no longer called him the lazy boy. Instead, they spoke of his transformation, of how focus and discipline had replaced his once aimless days. But it wasn't just about work. Karen noticed other changes. He laughed more, but the laughter felt real. He stood taller, not in arrogance but in self-belief. His mind, once scattered and sluggish, now found joy in learning and purpose in effort. One evening, Sajvir returned to the village square. Karen approached him, standing not as a confused boy, but as a growing young man. I started, Karen said simply. The sage smiled, his eyes soft with approval. That's all life ever asks, that you begin. But I still have so far to go, Karen admitted. Veer nodded. We all do, but the secret is, those who walk with intention always go farther than those who run without direction. As the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in orange and gold, Karen turned toward the path of his future, uncertain but no longer unprepared. He had taken the first step, and that made all the difference. Seasons changed. The village of Shantipur, once familiar with the image of a daydreaming boy under the trees, now watched a different Quran walk its paths. What had begun with small efforts, waking early, doing chores, reading, learning, had blossomed into a disciplined life. The boy who once believed there's still time now lived each day as if it mattered, because he had learned. It does. Karen's days became purposeful. He created a rhythm for his life, not strict, but mindful. He divided his time between learning new skills, helping in the village, and guiding the younger children. He had developed a deep respect for time, not as something to control, but something to protect. The hourglass Sage Veer had given him remained on his shelf. Karen no longer needed to hold it every day, but its silent message had settled into his bones. Karen's transformation was no longer just personal, it began to touch others. Children who once skipped their studies followed his example. Farmers who had dismissed him as hopeless now asked for his advice. Even elders sought his help with organizing community events or solving local issues. His story had become a quiet fire, warming those who felt stuck in their own habits of delay. But Karen's greatest discovery wasn't how to be productive, it was how to be present. As he grew older, Karen began to see time not just in tasks and to-do lists, but in people. In quiet dinners with his parents, in late-night talks with childhood friends, in laughter echoing through the fields during harvest festivals. He understood that time spent in love, in listening, in living fully, was never wasted. One day, many years later, Sajveer returned once more to Shantipur. This time, he found Karen sitting beneath the peepal tree, the very spot where their journey had begun. But now it was Karan who sat calmly, while young villagers gathered around him. He smiled when he saw the sage approach. "You've become a teacher," Veer said with quiet pride. Karen bowed. "Only because a teacher once handed me an hourglass instead of answers." They sat side by side, and as the evening sun spilled gold across the fields, Karen told stories, not of wealth or fame, but of moments saved, regrets avoided, and dreams pursued with patience. He told the children, "Time is the soil. Your actions are the seeds. If you plant wisely and care deeply, the harvest will come, not quickly but surely." He shared how every success he had now, every friendship, every fulfilled goal, was built one grain of effort at a time. The villagers began referring to him as Karan the Steady, a name that carried not speed or brilliance, but quiet strength and reliability. Years passed, and Karan grew older. Wrinkles appeared on his face, but his spirit remained clear. He continued to live simply, honor time, and remind the world around him that true success isn't found in racing against the clock, but in walking with it. When he was too old to teach in the village square, the people brought their children to his doorstep, and he always welcomed them with a story, a smile, and that same old hourglass sitting beside him. His story spread beyond Shantipur, passed from village to village, not as a tale of miracles or magic, but of something far more powerful: choice. Karen had once chosen delay, and then he chose change. And that is how a boy who once wasted his days became a man who inspired generations to treasure time, and to begin, no matter how late it seemed.